Island of Guam is poised to be of utmost importance for the US military in any possible confrontation with China. And as China's military power keeps rising, the threat to Guam rises as well. This video will explain why is the US military turning Guam, which already houses an impressive set of US military bases, into the ultimate Pacific Island military bastion. Why is it adding even more facilities, and why is it turning Guam into one of the most protected areas on Earth? The video will then also cover just how and with which systems is that expansion done to turn Guam into an air defense fortress. People often send me mail asking me how to make videos and how to express and communicate their ideas. That's where InVideo AI comes in, which is sponsoring this video. InVideo lets you express your ideas in the form of stunning videos in the most seamless and intuitive way possible, even if you are an absolute beginner in video production. Other video making tools usually have steep learning curves, and they don't cover all the steps you need to complete the process. InVideo can be your creative partner that does everything for you. Just focus on your vision and idea and type in a prompt. You can also edit anything you like. InVideo allows you to bring your ideas to life without barriers, whether it's telling a story, creating a YouTube explainer, imaginative footage, fictional scenarios, or making product videos. You can try InVideo AI for free, but if you really want to lean into their generative capabilities, their plans start at $96 per month, giving you 15 minutes of generative content. This will save you hundreds of dollars that you would otherwise spend on editing, animating, and other production costs. If you're already an InVideo user, you can simply go to the add-on section and buy generative seconds. Click the link in the video description below and give InVideo a try. Since the US took Guam from Spain in 1898, the island was always an important Pacific military outpost for the US. But it was only during and after World War II that it really became what it is today, a mainstay of US power projection in the Pacific. Various military facilities cover approximately 1/3 of the island's area. For decades, its role was to keep the Soviet Union in check. Even before some of the latest expansions started happening, Guam was home to a significant military presence. It was home to a large naval base, complete with facilities to support and resupply carrier battle groups, home to various support ships, and home to a submarine squadron consisting of 5 nuclear attack submarines. It also houses a vast naval magazine to feed the ships with ammo and supplies, and a small naval airbase to support the ship's air wings. To the north of the island, the Air Force's Andersen Air Base looms large, one of Air Force's largest air bases, with multiple runways and parking and apron space for approximately 200 large airliner-sized aircraft. As China's power rises, US assets and facilities close to China are at increased risk of being overwhelmed by Chinese strikes. Prime examples are US bases on Okinawa. That's why the US is counting less and less on such bases, and why bases like those on Guam are increasingly important. Unlike Okinawa, Guam is sufficiently far away from China that only a fraction of Chinese missile arsenal could reach it, and chances of Chinese fighter aircraft reaching Guam to perform bomb strikes are essentially zero, as the US presence between the first and second island chain is too powerful for China to overcome. The US is of course securing and building many other bases around China, some of which are closer to China than Guam, like those in the Philippines, and the US has bases on the Japanese mainland, which would enjoy protection from the Japanese military as well. But all those areas are not US sovereign territory. In theory, if the politics of the war get complicated, the US might not be as free to act in those bases as it can on Guam, which is US territory. Furthermore, the Philippines bases are still not established. Various other Western Pacific bases are in plan, but it may take a decade before all are put in place. Guam is available right now, with no strings attached, and billions are being invested in it. Just the Aegis Ashore system for Guam is to cost $1.6 billion. Guam is crucial if the US goes to war with China early, before all those additional bases become available. Japan's military, while likely an US ally in any war with China, is still not optimized for offensive warfare, and current US bases in Japan are insufficient. Getting access to additional bases in Japan during peacetime is a political no-go. It's only after a war starts that the US could count on Japan's territory to establish a myriad of new bases and project power onto China. But that would take time, easily months, possibly a year to get enough bases up to speed. All those bases would be closer to China, meaning they would get attacked by renewed Chinese missile strikes. Guam is partially protected by its distance from China. For naval purposes, it's perhaps optimally positioned, supplying US fleets in the Southwest Pacific. For air purposes, the distance that protects it also makes US power projection weaker if the US wants to actually strike China's mainland. Bases in Japan and the Philippines are better positioned for that. But if bombers are used, the distance to China would be trivial for them. It's no wonder so many facilities at Andersen Air Base are geared towards bomber support, including specialized hangars for B-2 bombers. But the fight is unlikely to be just over China. It's unlikely to be just over Taiwan either. The area east of Taiwan is likely to be fought over as well, bringing Guam closer to the front line, so to say. Also helping the Philippines' bases in the fight for the South China Sea, Guam is again well positioned as a second echelon strategic support base. Japan, while still somewhat closer, would have to send its aircraft in a roundabout route to the South China Sea, not to alert Chinese defenses. It's no wonder that the US moved its Marine Corps base from Japanese island of Okinawa, which is too close to China, to Guam. The new base, named Blaz, is being built as we speak and will be able to house 5,000 Marines. Part of it is already operational, with the move scheduled to be completed in 2025. But the new Marine Corps base is just one of recent additions. The naval base hasn't seen that much change, but the air base keeps expanding its facilities. Besides the main airfield, there's the northwestern airfield as well. For decades it was basically out of use. But some years ago, 2 of its runways were gradually repaired, widened and lengthened. The vast munitions storage area between 2 airfields has also seen work, with many bunkers being renovated. There was another airfield expanded on the nearby Tinian Island, as part of the overall expansion. When all is said and done, Guam's airbase will be able to count on 4 main runways with several full-length taxiways, and 2 support airfields, either for diverted returnees in case of an attack or for lower volume operations, one being the Tinian Island airfield and other the commercial airport in central Guam. But perhaps the biggest change Guam has seen is current work to vastly upgrade its air defenses. China knows how important Guam is, and ample facilities are either being built as we speak or are planned in the near future. The US Missile Defense Agency released maps of some of the planned air defense installations. For the most part, they should be still fairly valid, though in late October 2024, news came that due to environmental concerns, the originally planned 22 sites for air defense needs will be cut down to 16 sites. Those 16 sites, of course, encompass various facilities, from radar sites, launcher sites to various communication, command and support facilities. When talking about air defenses, a distributed network was often mentioned, so it should come to no surprise that we are looking at separate radar sites for several radars, all tying into the Aegis Ashore facilities and the Army's IBCS system, which are centerpieces of island's defense. Speaking about Guam air defenses, Admiral John Hill, head of the Missile Defense Agency, said that 4 long-range discrimination radars will be placed along the periphery of the island to provide 360 coverage. Admiral Hill also said those radars will be transportable and trailer-based. LRDR radars use the best and newest technology there is, and large variants of those radars exist at fixed radar sites protecting US mainland from ICBMs. A somewhat downscaled array variant of that for use on ships is called SPY-7, that is to be used on Japan's ballistic missile cruisers. And the trailer-based variant of said radar is called TPY-6, and apparently those will be used around Guam. Though peculiarly, in the MDA graphic, one blue arc of future radar coverage around Guam shows a more powerful array, It's therefore possible that 3 trailer-based radars will cover the lesser approaches to Guam, and that one large fixed-site radar like in Alaska will cover the approach coming from China. Why is it important to have all the approaches covered? Because hypersonic glider warheads can turn in flight and literally go around the island, approaching it from another vector and not straight from China. And because Chinese bomber aircraft and other future mobile platforms may launch ballistic missiles from quite a way far from China, again resulting in a different approach vector. In addition to said radars, next-generation Patriot system radars will be present. LTA-MDS radars, which are trailer-based, will fill in the gaps. Those are usually associated with Patriot missiles, so they will likely be tasked with both fending off aircraft and perhaps being used as last-ditch effort against ballistic missiles, if Aegis becomes overburdened or compromised. It's also possible that one of the radar arcs shown belongs to THAAD's radar. A THAAD battery has been on Guam for some years now, which is not a small deal considering the US operates only 7 of those batteries in total. THAAD radar is a large trailer-based array, and THAAD missiles are designed against medium-range ballistic missiles, with some limited ability against hypersonic gliders. Truth to be told, THAAD is getting a little behind the times and may be a stopgap measure until enough SM-6 missiles and new glide phase interceptor missiles come online. Talking about missiles, the SM-6 is part of Aegis and will likely be plentiful in land-based launchers peppered around the island. It's good against aircraft and, to an extent, against hypersonic gliders. Against large ballistic missiles, the SM-3 missile is used, which is great but is useless against hypersonic gliders that fly too low for it to be effective. China's DF-26, however, is a ballistic missile and currently the single biggest threat to Guam, so it's within SM-3's capability bracket. Both SM-3 and SM-6 are getting improved variants, which will come in handy, but the real improvement will come with the glide phase interceptor missile. It's tailor-made against hypersonic gliders, so it should assure that Guam defenses stay relevant for the foreseeable future. Both the SM-3, SM-6 and future GPI missile will be compatible with the same land launcher relying on the Mark 41 VLS. But the SM-6 is also compatible with the Army's Typhoon truck-based launcher. SM-6 can be used against land targets and moving ships, which is why the Army is getting them. But in theory, a distributed control system may allow for anti-aircraft use as well, from Army's launchers. Right now, it's unknown how many fixed-site Mark 41 VLS launchers there will be around Guam. Aegis Ashore exists in Poland and Romania right now. Guam will be its 3rd location, and probably the biggest one yet. The Polish site operates just 24 missile cells for now. Guam is sure to operate a few times that number. Indeed, all these defenses on Guam will free up Navy's ships. In World of US Admiral Davidson, at least 3 Aegis destroyers will be freed up on cost-basis comparison, and probably more in an actual war. That's not to say that the US Navy will still not have ships adding their defensive capabilities to Guam, but it's an option to have. Those Patriot radars we mentioned will surely come with some Patriot launchers, as the Army is increasing their overall numbers. Right now the Army has some 60 batteries in service and another battalion made up of 4 batteries forming up. The planned increased figure has not been announced publicly, but legislation was written in 2023 that the Patriot force can grow by up to 4 more battalions, meaning around 16 more batteries. It seems plausible that a whole battalion will find its way to Guam eventually. Patriots, however, don't necessarily need a specific radar to work. In 2022, Patriot missiles hit targets guided by THAAD's radar, and in 2023, short-range Sentinel radar was used to cue a Patriot missile towards a target. Sentinels are much smaller and usually associated with NASAMS and such systems, but they too will be present on Guam, in unknown numbers. It's possible that the MDA map shows Sentinel radar coverage as yellow circles. On Guam, Sentinel's primary role will be cueing missiles for the Enduring Shield SAM system. It's a novel short-range system. Its role on Guam will be to fend off various subsonic missiles, munitions, drones and such. Right now it uses the Sidewinder X missile, but in the future a more capable missile is going to be developed. Basically it's a system the army picked over the Israeli developed Iron Dome. The whole interchangeability of the Patriot and other systems is possible because of the Army's IBCS system. It's sort of the Army's equivalent to the Navy's cooperative engagement capability, handing off various missiles to other radars, data link arrays and command nodes. An important part of said capability is the Remote Interceptor Guidance 360 antenna unit. It enables the IBCS to talk to a wider array of missiles and send them data corrections. Already in 2022, the remote launch capability was tested explicitly for Guam, when a THAAD launcher was moved to nearby Rota Island, away from its radar which remained on Guam itself. We are talking about 40-mile plus distance between islands. Such distribution of launchers can not only help with better engagement angles against incoming targets, but can also physically increase the reach of the air defense bubble around Guam itself. It's plausible that some Roadrunner or Coyote anti-drone interceptor units will also be present. The whole layered air defense shield is of course not gonna be ready right away, but even today parts of it exist, like THAAD and Patriot systems. But the plan is that by 2026, most of the layers are in place and functioning. A 2023 government document mentioned 2024 as the date of initial Aegis testing capability. That goal is largely on track. 2029 was mentioned as the year of enhanced capability, and it was said that the defense system would keep on getting developed into the 2030s, which is also visible by the projected personnel increases through the 2030s. For such a tiny island, Guam is going to be full of air defenses, probably one of the most densely protected areas on Earth. While interceptor missiles can't always hit, and while there is always a possibility that, given enough Chinese missiles are fired, some will slip through, fact remains the US is making Guam a very hard target to reach. Even if China does somehow overwhelm its defenses, it will likely take most of its intermediate-range missile arsenal to do it. Spending missiles on one target, of course, means fewer missiles available to China for other targets. And while such an attack might take Guam out of service for a short time, much of its capabilities and defenses can get restocked. Patriot and THAAD battery elements and even Aegis Ashore radars will be transportable, so even after a successful attack, it may be that within just weeks, Guam's defenses will be up and running again. Guam will be very hard for China to keep out of action for good. It's a US fortress in the Pacific, and in any possible shooting war, it will remain a problem for China. And remember, Binkov may talk about war, but only real peace can bring us all together.